What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Enjoying the Review. I'm your host, Incomparable Zach Jones, and we've been off the last couple weeks, but there's a new MCU show in the wild, so I had to come back and review it. So today I'm going to be reviewing and recapping the first 3 episodes of the new Disney Plus original Marvel series, Ironheart. Before I get into things, guys, though, speaking of metal and a heart, please have a heart of gold and subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can also leave me likes, comments, all that good stuff, reviews. You can also listen in audio form on your podcast catcher of choice. And you can follow me on social media, either on Twitter at Zach Jones Live, ZachJonesLive, or on Blue Sky at Enjoying the Review. All right, guys, let's get into it. So, Ironheart. First of all, I want to mention I'm not a big fan of them dropping 3 episodes at once from a review perspective, because it makes it so I can't necessarily review them in as much detail as I normally do. I watched Andor, and I loved Andor season 2. I didn't, but I didn't review it on the show because of that structure. But for Andor, it kind of made sense because each group of 3 episodes was in a distinct new time period. So after I saw Andor season 2, I kind of understood why they did it that way. But this makes me think that they maybe just didn't have a lot of confidence in Ironheart and kind of wanted to get it out sooner than later. And also, I believe it's only 6 episodes, and they're dropping the next 3 next week. So it's only going to be a 2-week kind of thing. So right away, first of all, let me get this out of the way. I am going to give this first batch of 3 episodes a 6.3 out of 10. I think they're passable. They're fine, but certainly nothing to write home about. And I have a fair amount of criticism. So the first thing that came to my mind when I saw this is comparing it to other MCU shows, is the Echo show. Because if you guys recall, they didn't do the 3 episodes at a time thing. But they dropped it all at once. Again, I don't think they had a lot of confidence in that show either. And with that show, I felt similarly about Echo, where I'm like, it's not offensively bad or anything. It's just, it seems very forgettable, not something I'll ever revisit. And that's the case. Like, I haven't revisited Echo. I probably never will. But again, in my mind, it was just like an okay show. And that's what I'm getting out of these first 3 episodes. So why is that? So a couple things. I wrote down, Riri is somewhat of an unlikable character. Now, sometimes you actually want to do that with your protagonist because then they have room to grow. But what do I mean by unlikable? Number one, she's kind of arrogant. She has it in her mind that, she wants to be iconic. She wants to, I think she is kind of a fame seeker in a way. She mentions she wants to build suits that will help with, first responder type stuff and save lives and stuff. And that's great. That's something you want in your hero. But at the same time, it definitely seems like she's got a big head about herself, an ego of herself. And she mentions several times in the show she wants to do something big, iconic. I think she definitely wants to be famous, wants to be known, and that's kind of unappealing in a hero. Although, look, Tony Stark has some of those qualities, as well. So, she's also kind of greedy in a way. She starts off the show talking about money, where she's like, talking about Tony Stark, and it's like she's like, I'm not necessarily trying to take away from his intellect or his skill or anything, but he had all the money in the world to help him, and that was, and so, but my thing is, once we get into the show, and by the way, full spoilers. Sorry if I didn't mention that. Um, she turns to crime fairly quickly. You know, and it's like, I guess this is kind of her origin story in becoming a hero. Because, like I said, we don't need her to have all great qualities off the bat, so she can develop as a character. But I'm just saying, this is something that makes her kind of unlikable. And then also, and this is definitely a spoiler, she essentially in the third episode lets a man die. And again, it's like, you know, you do want her to learn a lesson, but that's a pretty big, like, failing as a basic, like, human being. And yeah, he was a bad guy, and he was trying to kill her. I get it, but she does essentially let him die. At least, if I'm not mistaken, I think she leaves him in a spot where she knows, like, he's going to die. And so, I don't know. I just, these things combined make me question her as a character. But again, it gives her room to grow. I wrote, Natalie is a better character, more interesting character, but her origin is kind of nonsense. So they introduce that Riri had this best friend of hers, Natalie, and a stepfather of hers, and they died in like a senseless drive-by shooting, right? But then Natalie becomes an AI, and they don't really explain this well. So Riri, for whatever reason, hooks up. She's like, I need to create an AI, and for some reason to do that, I'm just gonna plug these things onto my head, and you know, it's gonna somehow magically create an AI out of my mind. I guess that's what that part was very slapdash and not explained well. And then somehow it pulls, I guess, all of her memories of Natalie out of her head and creates an AI out of her. I don't know. There was just something about the writing here where I'm like, yeah, they didn't want to explain this in too much detail because it is kind of nonsensical. But that being said, the Natalie, AI character, I think I enjoy her more than Riri, and so that's kind of a problem when your main protagonist isn't the star of their own show. And there's also another character that I'll get to that I'm like, hey, I even like this character more than Riri so far. Next, I wrote weird villain choice. So the villain is Parker Robbins, I think is his name, the Hood. And there's like a, mystical, magical thing with him where the hood that he found gives him powers, but it's also like possessed or something by a demon. And I think what they're going for is a whole like science versus magic thing with them. But I don't know. It just seems like a clash of styles, and I'm certainly not sold on it yet. It seems like just a weird pairing, an iron suit versus the man of magic or whatever. Maybe in the last 3 episodes when they collide or whatever, I'll be like, oh no, this actually was really cool. But so far, it's seeming like a weird choice. And they also introduce, and I'll get to it, someone who, might be a villain down the road, that would make more sense as a villain for her. But it's like, I don't see that paying off in this show. And I mean, I kind of doubt they're going to get the ratings that will make them do a season 2 of this show, but we'll see. I don't know. I also wrote a lot of uninteresting characters, specifically like the bad guy crew that she gets in with. Most of these characters, neither the writing of the characters or the actors in the parts, including the guy that plays the Hood, made me think like, oh, I enjoy watching these people. They're all just kind of boilerplate cliches I've seen in other sort of heist type uh, shows and movies, and they don't stand out to me. They're just kind of blah, kind of forgettable to me. Okay, so here's where I get to what I think was kind of the highlight of these first three episodes for me, which is Alden Ehrenreich's character, who I thought was just a really a breath of fresh air. He brings kind of some good humor to the show. I found him to be the most interesting character, and again, much more interesting than Riri. So the big thing we find out is that he is the son of Obadiah Stane, Jeff Bridges' character from the original Iron Man. Of course, in the comic books, Ezekiel Stane does become an Iron Man villain. I wrote here, I kind of hope he doesn't become a villain. I kind of like him as he is in this episode. And I like the idea of him being, quote unquote, a good guy. And now, the way they left the end of this episode, I kind of feel they are going to possibly turn him. They already, in this episode, like, she teaches him to, like, you got to stand up for yourself, and we see him do that. And it seems like he's becoming maybe a little more bolder in that way. And then she promised him that she would be careful and not have his, fake skin or whatever be found. And of course, what happens at the end of the third episode is she messes up and she leaves that at the crime scene. So you got to imagine the authorities are going to find that and link it back to him. And so maybe that'll lead him into villainy. But my thing is, if he does turn out to be a villain, you can't really turn him into a full-fledged villain and have them confront each other in just another 3 episodes. That would be way too fast. There's no way you could do it in a satisfying way. And so it's like, after this series is over, like, when's the next time we would see that character? In what context? So I don't know. I don't know if they'll ever do anything with these characters again. We'll see. And then the last thing I wrote is uneven special effects. So I thought the suit stuff looked okay. You kind of get the same kind of thing they've been doing with Iron Man stuff in the past. And I didn't bump up too much against that. But then, like, I was referencing, like, the fake skin thing that she puts on to do the mission looks terrible. And I don't know. I guess that's the biggest thing that stood out to me. Most the rest of the show actually looked decent. But Marvel has enough money that really all these shows should be looking pretty dang good. So that's it. Those are my kind of criticisms of the show and a few things I liked. But again, this show, I don't think it's going to knock anyone's socks off. But it was passable in my book, at least these first 3 episodes. I am curious to see the next 3. But so for those of you who haven't watched the show before, I generally make notes and do a very kind of detailed breakdown of the episodes I watch. But because this is not a week-to-week show, 1 episode per week, it would take me too long to do, super in-depth on each one of these episodes. So what I'm going to do for this is I am just going to kind of go through the Wikipedia synopses, which are still pretty good. And I'll kind of give my thoughts as we go along. So here we go. Deep dive on Ironheart. So episode 1 is entitled Take Me Home. And here's what they write. Riri Williams' request for MIT to extend her grant for another year is denied, and she is expelled from the school after the school's dean's notes her helping other students in schools plagiarize, plagiarize their work in exchange for money. Some of this seemed like a little try hard. Like, they make her out to be like, you know, this really troublesome student that they put up with for like the last, however, 4 years or whatever. It's like, I don't know. But also, it just seems like someone as smart as her could be making legit money without having to do illegal, shady stuff. Like, I don't know. I never quite buy that she has to do the things she does to get money. So Riri takes off in her new suit of armor to her hometown of Chicago, where she's still grieving the deaths of her best friend Natalie Washington and stepfather Gary from a drive-by shooting. Riri shares with Natalie's brother Xavier on how she wants her talents to be taken seriously. She's recruited by John, who joins the gang of his cousin Parker Robbins, also known as the Hood. When she visits Robin's hideout, he tests Riri by trapping her in a gas-filled elevator. Which, that scene was in the trailer for the show. And, like, I don't know, the show made it seem like it was going to be a slightly more, like, nail-biting, interesting, like, almost like a side death trap. I guess it kind of was, but it ended up being, like, not very dramatic and just kind of bleh. So, I don't know. Which she narrowly escapes. Okay, whatever. Initially denying his offer to join their next 3 heists, she relents when Robbins offers financial compensation. Again, this doesn't take much. He basically just shows her, like, he's like, we'll give you money if you sign up for these heists. And she's like, no. And then he basically, like, I think you forgot what money looks like. See, it looks like this. And she's like, okay, I'll do it. So that's what I was talking about earlier with how she's, like, really quick to turn to crime. And it kind of makes her a little unlikable as a hero. But, we'll see. So at home, Riri lashes out at her mother, Ronnie, over the loss of her loved ones. And Ronnie tells her that she has unprocessed grief that she has to deal with. Riri's grieving during the brain mapping of her AI leads to it being a digital recreation of Natalie. Again, that's what I was referencing earlier, where, like, I don't understand why it would have to map her brain and how that would just accidentally create an AI of her friend. Maybe that's something they're going to explain in a future episode, but I doubt it. So now we move on to episode 2. Will the real Natalie please stand up? So Riri meets the Hood's gang as they target Tunnel. And I like that these places that they're targeting are, like, blatant, like, analogs for, like, companies we'd be familiar with. So Tunnel is the Elon Musk's, the Boring company. And then in episode 3, there's going to be one, like, an evil agriculture company that's basically like Monsanto's. So, we'll see what else they're going to parody in the next episode. So they're going to target Tunnel, which aims to turn Chicago's freight tunnels into a private highway at the expense of local communities. I don't know if they explain that well, because, like, if the tunnel system actually worked and it cut down on traffic and everything, like, it seems like that would still, like, help out, communities. They imply that this group, even though they're doing heists, they're also doing, like, some sort of, like, social rebellion, social activism. But I mean, really, at the end of the day, they're kind of reveling in the money. So, I don't know exactly what they're trying to say with these characters. They aim to sabotage Tunnel's demonstration with a virus and lead to a negotiation. However, Riri's suit is not ready, and Natalie, which she says is now an acronym for Neuro-Autonomous Technical Assistant and Laboratory Intelligence Entity, provides the closest black market arms dealer in the area, being Joe McGillicuddy. By the way, anytime you need a funny last name, it's McGillicuddy. It works. It works. I don't know why. Startled at Natalie recalling a memory of the real Natalie. Oh yeah, that's another thing I didn't quite understand. So there's a part where like a cop aims a gun at them, and Natalie, the AI, like freezes, like she has memories of being shot. And I don't know. I think they'll probably explain it maybe in a future episode. It seems like at least something they'll get back to, but yeah, I'm not sure exactly what they're putting there. So Riri tethers Natalie to her laptop before she brings her suit to Joe in Evanston. Riri forces Joe to bring her his collection, which is well stocked in an offsite. Joe shares how it makes him close to his father, who believed in weapons manufacturing, while Joe believes technology can benefit humanity. While Joe helps complete Riri's suit, Natalie manages to escape into different gadgets in Riri's home, meeting Ronnie, her mother, in the process. The heist on Tunnel goes on smoothly until Natalie breaks into Riri's suit, making her drop the hard drive containing the virus. Riri and Natalie manage to devise a backup plan to initiate the shutdown, where Parker successfully blackmails Tunnel CEO Sheila Zarate into signing a contract to put the crew under Tunnel's payroll. A part of me thinks like they could have just stopped there. Like, do they really need to do another heist? Like, they're all going to be making 6 figures a year just from this job. It's like, why not just retire? Like, I mean, unless they're really greedy, I guess. But, you know, to me, I would have been like, yep, job well done. That's all we need. Riri is confronted by a guard during her escape, and Natalie glitches out before Parker shoots the guard. And he has like bullet bending abilities, like from that movie Wanted, except he doesn't have to shoot him out of his gun. He can just like Magneto them, you know. Natalie shares that she panicked as it was a reminder of the real Natalie's death, but also expresses her suspicions of Parker's power. After going with Xavier to a concert, Riri talks with Ronnie about Natalie. Riri refuses her mother's request to make an AI Gary, as she doesn't know where Natalie came from. So far, the Xavier character, I don't know if they're trying to like suggest that he's a romantic interest of Riri's. They didn't really connect in that way in either any of these episodes, but maybe down the line. Okay, so episode 3, entitled "We in Danger, Girl." The gang celebration of their successful heist. Oh, one thing I was going to mention is I don't think they mentioned in any of these recaps is like wearing the cape causes Parker to like one of the other crew members says he looks like he has scales. I wouldn't say that exactly. It just looks like he has like, you know, all the veins in like his back look bloodshot and, you know, like he has blood poisoning or something. And so he was having his cousin like cover him up with tattoos, but they keep like growing. So the gang celebration of the scheduled heist goes sour when Riri and gang member Clown touch Parker's hood in his room, which causes them to be chastised by John. I don't think just chastised. I think he actually like smashes Clown's face into a desk or something. Parker arrives and shares their second heist, targeting biotech firm Heirloom, whose farming technology forces farmers out of business. Again, definitely an analog, it seems like to me, for Monsanto's, the agricultural company in our world. Riri shares to Parker her struggles, that partaking in the heist makes her a bad person. But Parker shares that anyone who achieves greatness has done questionable things to get it done, attributing his magical hood to his becoming unstoppable. Natalie forces Riri to upgrade the suit so she would not be tethered to the suit. Riri is informed of the death of Rampage, a former gang member, and she decides to find a way to cut off part of the hood's hood to find out the truth. That's one thing that they didn't mention. So that Rampage guy, played by Eric Andre, he was basically the group's tech guy, and like he failed on a mission, so they replaced him with Riri, and then Riri finds out he was killed, and she puts it together that it was probably John who did it, getting rid of loose ends, and he'll later admit that. So she's going to get a piece of the hood by using Joe's designs of biomesh skin to conceal bionic enhancements. Because I guess in this agricultural facility, like, it can detect metal. So somehow by putting the fake skin over top of the laser cutter, it conceals it from the detector. So Riri goes to Joe's place, where she finds him injured from an experiment on himself, and while finding medical supplies, discovers the ashes of Obadiah Stane. Joe reveals his real name is Ezekiel Zeke Stane, the son of Obadiah, who died trying to kill Tony Stark. Zeke does not want to be like his father and shares his concerns over what Riri has planned. Again, I like Alden Ehrenreich in this character, and I kind of hope they don't turn him villainous. I think they will, and they're definitely paving the way. But I hope that's kind of a false flag or something, and it ends up he does stay good. Zeke asks her why she built an iron suit, and Riri explains that Gary was a Stark fan and fixed things because he could, and she hopes to do the same. Riri comforts Zeke, who gives her the biomesh skin. Later at the heist, Riri lets Natalie use the suit while she sneaks up on Parker to cut out part of his robe, while he negotiates with CEO Hunter Mason, who refuses to sign his contracts. However, Riri's cutter activates the detection system, causing a lockdown that emits carbon dioxide. Parker kills Mason before he and Natalie rescue the crew. Riri runs into John, who mistakenly thinks she killed Parker after seeing the piece of the hood she cut off. Now, when that happens, I thought he just suspected that, oh, I can see you're up to something since you cut a piece of his hood off. I didn't think he would have leapt to, oh, you must have killed my cousin. So I didn't necessarily get that, but if Wikipedia says so, Wikipedia can't be wrong. And John admits to killing Rampage. The two fight before Natalie saves Riri, leaving John to die. And again, this is what I referenced earlier. Like, you have to imagine that she knew that John was going to die. Like, he was trapped in that room, and she knew, like, the CO2 was filling the room. So she essentially lets him die. Which, again, is kind of a shady thing to make her do. But I guess it can give her motivation later on to be like, I need to always, save people even though I don't like them or whatever, Riri panics as she arrives home and realizes she left the biomesh skin where John died. She freaks out over that, just not the fact that she killed John or left him to die. And a grieving Parker attempts to quit being the Hood before he is given a vision showing that Riri was responsible for John's death. So you got to imagine this is going to put them on a collision course. I believe it was announced a long time ago that Sacha Baron Cohen was cast in a role in this show. And I know some people think, once again, the old Marvel joke that it's, he's Mephisto. Which honestly, I don't care about that character at all, so I could care less whether they eventually introduce Mephisto to the MCU or not. But it does seem like, there's some sort of demonic force connected to the Hood. So, it would make sense if he was playing either Mephisto or a demon type character. But who knows? He could be anything. So yeah, that's the recap of the first 3 episodes. Again, this gives me, thoughts of Echo and be it just like, it was what it was. It was fine. But I gotta say, man, Marvel this year kind of having a rough year because, there was a Daredevil show, which I reviewed. If you didn't watch my reviews, please do so. And I generally I had some criticisms of Daredevil, but generally liked it. But I'm curious how that did. That's the one thing about streaming is you never know, unless they brag about it, what kind of viewership it did. But they had already, I think shot a large portion of season 2 of Daredevil. And so it was already kind of greenlit. And, but that's a good thing in my book. And then there was Captain America Brave New World, which I thought was not very good, pretty mid. But I think it at least was profitable. And then there was Thunderbolts, which I thought was actually pretty good, which I think is not doing well financially and possibly even losing money, which is not good. Again, there are economic factors that may be affecting box office more so than just, quality of movies. Because I know other blockbusters are struggling right now too. Although Sinners did very well, I believe, so, and a few others. But I think the latest Mission Impossible movie is struggling, and there's been some others too. I think even the new Pixar movie that just came out isn't off to a great start. But, we'll see. We'll see how things shape out. So Marvel was, let's see. After this, they got Fantastic Four coming out this year, which, man, I'm curious about Fantastic Four, but I'm not really excited for it. I don't know. I'm cautiously optimistic, I guess. We'll see. And then on the DC side of things, we've got Superman coming up, which I'm very curious about. And then later on this year, we got Peacemaker Season 2, which should be a good time. So, we got some things in the works. But that'll do it, guys, for this week in my review of Ironheart. What did you guys think of these first 3 episodes of Ironheart? And what are you looking forward to? Anything from the next 3? Are you even going to watch the next 3? We'll see how viewership goes. But yeah, guys, that'll do it for my review today. Thank you for tuning in. If you will, please, if you haven't already, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Leave likes, comments, positive reviews. You can also listen in audio form on your podcast catcher of choice. And you can follow me on social media on Twitter, either on Twitter at Zach Jones Live, ZachJonesLive, or on Blue Sky at Enjoying the Review. But guys, until next time, I hope you're enjoying the review. Bye, guys.